Hi. It'll be interesting to see how this works. I don't think I've ever gone live on YouTube before, and I don't know how I'll see the chat. I've watched lots of them, but I don't know how I'll see the chat. I don't know why I think I need this earbud. I guess it's to make sure I can hear myself think. But if you're here, if you join me and you want to ask a question, I would love to. I'd love to know where you're from, no matter when you're watching this, or if you've got anything you want to add about this conversation, that too would be great. I'm also used to having a mic on this side, and it's on this side in this setup. I think for next week I will switch it around because this is the second time I've recorded with it over there, and it's amazing how surprising it is to me to be using this here. So if you are here, thank you. I can see a couple of people joining me, which is lovely and kind of exciting with the new platform and all. But, tonight I really was reflecting, driving home, and then I had to drive back to work, and then I had to drive down again. And then I've been kind of thinking as I catch up on the world events about what do you do when the world around you just it's hopeless. It's helpless. Here, many of us in North America, we feel like things are pretty rough already. And, I'm in Canada, and Canada has the second largest number of Ukrainians outside of the Ukraine in the world. So, the events in Europe right now are hitting pretty close to home for a lot of people who I know and love and care about deeply. And I think that that's a really important thing to understand, right? That we are impacted by these things that we can't even wrap our heads around, right? The wars, when they start somewhere, you can't help but worry about them. And whether you are of my generation, where we were worried about the third nuclear war and things like the Falklands was enough to make us lose sleep as small children, or whether you are of my mom's generation and your parents were in the war and you remember that clearly, or whether you are of this coming generation and you believe that you may not live to die of old age because the world around you may collapse because of climate change. There is so much stress in our world. There are so many sad things in our world that remembering that is a really legitimate and valid feeling, that we are in fact allowed to and should honor those feelings, right? That I would worry more about you if you were like, it doesn't concern me at all, I'm just going to carry on. That if you put up that shell, that thick shell to just keep going, that's going to be the problem, right? By allowing yourself to be a little bit vulnerable, by allowing yourself to care about other people, by letting yourself express those concerns and saying, gosh, it's awful what's happening in the Ukraine today, or in Ottawa, if you knew somebody who was living in Ottawa in the last couple of weeks, in the zone, you probably were hearing some stories that were kind of disturbing to you. Maybe you are, on the right, and lots of people who were vaccinated truckers who went to protest to say that they felt they should have their freedom, and you're feeling like you're the one being badly treated. It's okay to be expressive about those feelings, and being expressive doesn't mean you have to be whiny about them. It doesn't mean you have to be nasty about them. It does mean that you want to think about where is an opportunity for you to share those feelings. Some of you will have heard me say this before, but connection matters. And if you don't have people where you can say, oh, that's a little bit alarming, that's a little bit disturbing, I'm worried about this thing, then that can make you feel even worse about these things that are weighing heavily on you. And while I'm on this rant, I really want to make sure that I say, you can drown in 6 inches of water as easily as in 60 feet of water. So it's terrible to think about the Ukraine from here. And it's also okay to think, I'm glad I'm not there. It's okay to be distressed about your furnace. That would be me last night, not working when it's minus 20 out. Even as you're worrying more about the people in the Ukraine. What a position of privilege I'm in to be able to worry about my furnace not working last night when we had a wood burning fire, a small electric heater, and plenty of wood on the porch. We didn't sleep well. Tom got up many times to load the fireplace with wood, and that was fine, and that was great, and I'm grateful to him because it meant I was sort of functional at work today. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't stressful for us. Even though we were privileged, we weren't in the Ukraine, there were lots of positive things we could say about everything. It does not mean that what was happening to us wasn't stressful. And I think that that can be really quite profound, if we want to continually minimize our own distress and stress in the situation because these bigger things are happening, these more awful things are happening. We can dig quite a hole for ourselves that can be hard to get out of. It's important to remember that sometimes these things are coming from a place of privilege, that these things can be fixed, that things are just things. One of my youth broke their TV got broken the last week, and he was crushed, right? He was absolutely devastated. And was it ever hard for him to hear me say, dude, it's a thing. Things can be replaced, because he was devastated. He'd worked really, really hard to get it, and it was damaged out of spite by another youth. And so there were lots of big feelings around it, and I felt for him. But even as I felt for him, I felt it was important to remind him that it's just a thing. And, these huge things are not just things. The war in Ukraine, the very, very different political positioning, people turning on each other, COVID, right? I have a dear, dear, dear client who's in the hospital right now, tested positive on January 5th and is in the hospital still tonight. She's second time back. I'm worried about her. It's terrible. I'm also helpless. So there's nothing I can do to directly help her other than reach out to her via email, make sure I connect with her as best as I can, tell other people who I know will worry about her to worry about her. It's okay to worry about her. We are worried about her, and that's an okay thing, right? And we want to remember that that moment of connection is really where we can let go of some of the almost inalienable, like there's nothing we can do about it, tension. So rather than just saying accept it and roll over and throw your hands in the air, talk about it, connect over it, figure out, is there anything that you can do? Do you know a Ukrainian person? Reach out to them and say, I'm so sorry about what's happening to your country of origin, if they're from there directly or if their parents are from there. If you know somebody who's got COVID, tell them, I'm so sorry you've got COVID. Another friend of mine lost her mom. And, I reached out, even though their political beliefs are very different to me. I reached out to her last week and just said, I'm so sorry. That's terrible, because it is terrible. Even if the political beliefs of their family and mine don't align, it doesn't make losing the mom any less serious, right? A friend of mine's looking at a dog who's not well, actually a couple of them, because that's the circle I move in. A couple of my friends who have dogs who are not well. I can't do anything about that here sitting on my couch. I can't wave a magic wand and make the dogs well as much as I would like to. But I can make sure that I keep that connection open to them by saying, hey, how's the dog? Can I help you? What's going on? Posting a cute picture, sending them a silly meme. All of those things actually can help make that connection. So I think when you look at what can you do to sort of stay grounded in this world? All of those good self-care things, some of the breathing exercises that I've talked about before, can help. A little visualization, go to a happy place in your head. Tom will put himself mentally on his catamaran, which we haven't owned for 20 years, 15 years. He'll put himself on his catamaran at his family's cottage lake when he was a young kid, right? He'll take the boat out mentally and go do that. I'll go for a walk in my head with the dogs here, and not the dogs who I currently have, this group of 7 that we had for so long, right? I'll take them all for a walk. And for a long time, that was hard. Like, I would be sad thinking about some of the dogs running, but then I realized that it was a good way to honor their memory too. So, grounding yourself, all those same things, connecting with nature, listening to music that makes you happy or makes you sad. It is okay to be emotional in stressful times. And sometimes having an outlet for those emotions is a good thing. So if you are emoting and you need to cry it out, as my mother-in-law would say, put on a sad song and cry. You need a sad song playlist? I'm your gal. I can share a lot of sad songs with you, because I don't cry a lot on my own, and music is one way I can connect to an emotional side of myself. And I need to sometimes. Sometimes you have to be happy. right? You need to be more positive. You're on your way to work and you can't spend the day crying about things you have no control over. Maybe you have some control, but you don't feel you have control over. That would be a day to make sure that you're not listening to the news and sinking into a pit, but that you put on a happy soundtrack or listen to a podcast that you enjoy or something like that, right? I hope that makes sense. You know the drill probably if you're here watching, but you may not. You may be new to me, in which case, hello, I'm Andrea Harrison. I live in Prince Edward County. Please like and subscribe and all of those good things you're supposed to do on YouTube. But if you're here and you've got a question, please feel free to ask. So when you want to, I'm trying to think of how to express this. When you want to feel like you have some control, right? Things are out of control. We can't change Ukraine. We can't change COVID. We can't change so much right now. We are a world in a bit of chaos. I'm going to say it. Ready? You know what I'm going to say, I bet. It's also a good time to remind yourself of a gratitude practice or a senses touch, connection to your senses. So that's easy, right? You're going to look around for something that you can see that is grounding to you. You're going to look around for something you can taste that is grounding to you, or think about the tastes that are already in your mouth. You may be able to just, taste a little bit of dinner, or the roof of your mouth may have a feeling. What can you touch, right? What can you hear? I can hear a little buzz through this piece, which is probably why I keep putting it back in my ear. It's reassuring to me. It reminds me that I'm connecting. So work through those 5 senses, okay? And that can be very, very, very grounding. If you would prefer a gratitude practice, simply affirming. Here's the strange fact for the day. I am as you breathe in, grateful as you breathe out. If it's too hard for you to think of something specific, and I don't say this often enough, I'm all about like the gratitude prompt, think of 2 people who changed your life and why you're grateful for them. Have you told them about them? Or what food are you grateful for? Or, what was an early experience that changed your trajectory? How are you grateful for it? But simply to affirm, I am, breathe in, grateful, breathe out, is also a gratitude practice. And if in a time where you really can't think of a lot of concrete things you're grateful for, it seems kind of awful to say I'm grateful I'm not in the Ukraine right now, because I'm scared for the people who are in the Ukraine, right? So to say I'm grateful I'm not in the Ukraine, I don't love the way that feels, right? Where do I feel it? I feel it right there. Ugh. So for me to remind myself, I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful. Rep of 3 is usually what I do for all of the breathing kind of work I do, can be settling to me, right? And of course, if you love to paint your nails, paint your nails. You love to get a haircut, book a haircut. You want to have a nice Epsom salt bath, great. You want to meditate, fantastic. Whatever it is that works for you in terms of things that you do that are grounding and routine and comforting, do not be afraid to find comfort in these times. And I guess ultimately, that's the bottom line for this. Connection, whatever that means to you, a good cup of tea, a nice cup of coffee, doing something nice for someone else. So I've got this friend who's not well. I've got this other friends who are worried about their dogs. I've got another friend who's lost her mom. Like, I've got lots of stuff going on. I may not even be able to help any one of them directly, but I probably can do something nice for somebody tomorrow at work. So, I might think about that now. What could I do tomorrow? Oh, maybe I could stop at the variety store on my way to work and get 4 ice caps, right? Because I don't drive past Tim Hortons or anything. I can get 4 ice caps on my way to work, and I'll give them to them and they'll be happy. Or an iced tea, and I'll give it to them and they'll be happy. And that means that I will have done something that perhaps they can do for someone else, that will then smile at somebody on their way home, or they will do something else. And maybe, just maybe, that'll trickle all the way out to help the people who I am the most worried about, who are generally quite remote to me. So, I think that's what we really want to do is find those moments, those opportunities to remember that we do matter, that we do make a difference, and I think that that's the thing that's so easy to lose sight of when we're worried about other people and we're worried about what the future holds, and we feel like we're in the edge of chaos. We don't have any way to feel utility. We don't feel useful. We don't feel anything that's going to make us feel better about this difficult situation that we're in. And I think that I've talked about this quite a lot before, and I'm sure I'll talk about grief on this channel a bit, but that if we are, feeling grief, we often feel very isolated. And I think when we feel really stressed, we often feel really isolated. I forget that you may be worrying about the war in the Ukraine, or that you may have someone who's in the hospital with COVID right now, or whatever these things are that are stressing me, that you may also be going through something that is equally or maybe even more dark. And so if I think it's more dark, I'm going to be like, oh, I shouldn't be worried about it. Such a first world problem, my furnace last night. But I may also be like, no one else is suffering like me. And neither of those realities are actually accurate. It's our little lizard brain doing their magic, making us go, run around with it. It feels as if we've got our heads cut off. But the bottom line is, you matter. You're making a difference. Your connection matters. It's making a difference. You are important. You are making a difference. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I think I said it in the middle of here, but you may not make it to, you may skip through. If you want to or are able to subscribe to the channel, that would be great. If you want to give this video a like, I would be grateful. And other than that, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week if I don't see you before then. Bye for now, and thank you for joining.